After receiving a cruel spell, Maleficent's daughter must use her father's power to save her enemy. Today we'll recap the story of the 2019 movie, Descendants 3. Auradon is a stunning magical land where Mal, daughter of Maleficent, resides. However, she was born on the Isle of the Lost, the place to which all villains have been exiled. Ben, the future king of Auradon, decided to create a project to rescue some children of villains from the island, so Mal and 3 other colleagues were saved. Faced with this, the young people have the mission to return to the island to rescue children who deserve a second chance, through a selection conducted by themselves. The 4 judges walk through the streets of the site, collecting the new applications handed in by the children. Finally, the judges begin to announce the guests, and the first selected is a girl named Dizzy, granddaughter of Lady Tremaine, daughter of Drizella. The girl vibrates with excitement when she hears her name. After her, Carlos announces Smee's son, Squeaky, but the young man isn't too excited, seeing as his brother has been left behind. However, Jay admits that he will not separate the twins, so he calls for Squirky, cheering everyone up. And lastly, Dr. Facilier's daughter Celia was chosen. After that, the 4 teenagers leave for Auradon. Back at the castle, Mal is worried that her arch-nemesis might show up with some plan on the beach around the site. She keeps an eye on her binoculars for any sign of Uma. However, her boyfriend Ben reassures her and invites her to attend a ceremony. Afterwards, the young couple take to the stage at the event for a speech. However, Ben suddenly starts proposing, which makes Mal very emotional, and she accepts the proposal. As the girl says yes, a girl named Audrey shouts no in the audience, but everyone else expresses happiness over the engagement. The annoyed girl is the daughter of Sleeping Beauty, and she is angry because she believes that she should be the queen, not the successor of the villain. While greeting her friends and family, the bride bumps into Audrey, who strongly believes in the possibility that Mal has bewitched the prince to marry her, but the young woman is not shaken by the accusation. After that, the teens return to the Isle of the Lost to transport the newbies through the portal to Auradon. As the vehicle crosses the barrier, it begins to slowly close. However, a villain named Hades extends his arm through the small opening of the portal, so he can punch a hole in the barrier and prevent it from closing. Before the worst can happen, the 4 teenagers get out of the car and Mal transforms into a dragon, which charges at the man. However, the man also uses his powers to stop the creature from getting any closer. At the festival, people run around in despair at the situation, and some say the future queen is not good enough to protect the citizens. Meanwhile, the dragon exerts more and more pressure on the man, until finally knocking him down, resulting in the restoration of the barrier. Soon after, Mal returns to her normal state, but doesn't feel well as the villain has drained her energy using the power of the ember. At the same time, Audrey cries in despair that she has lost the post of queen, which has left her heart bitter. Faced with this situation, the embittered girl goes to the museum, where she turns off the security cameras, as the site's guard is fast asleep. While walking through the place, she comes across the crown of the Queen of Auradon, so Audrey breaks the glass and steals the object. She is then attracted by Maleficent's scepter. At the same moment, the girl throws a basket of apples on the ground to make room for her crown, and admires the magical object. After that, she puts the crown on her head, which makes Audrey completely change her appearance, becoming the Queen of Mischief. Then she wields the staff to destroy the lights of the place. During a meeting with the future rulers, Ben's parents believe that the project to rescue new children from the island is too dangerous, since opening the portal leaves open access for any bad guy. The conversation is interrupted when the prince receives a phone call, in which he discovers that Maleficent's staff and the queen's crown have been stolen. After receiving this news, Mal decides not to reopen the barrier ever again, even if she doesn't want to. At the same moment, Ben is hurt by his parents for having suggested this idea to the young woman. After that, even with his dream of rescuing the children from the island, the prince agrees that they must act as kings of Auradon, doing their best to protect the citizens. On the other hand, Evie does not believe that the barrier should be closed, since they promised the children that everyone would have a home. Besides, they don't even know if the citizens really want the isolation of the island. As Carlos and his 2 friends check on the preparations for Jane's birthday, they realize that someone has stolen a piece of the birthday cake. In the backyard, Celia and Dizzy enjoy the cake happily and guilt-free. As Mal leaves her house, she is surprised by Audrey carrying her mother's scepter and the queen's crown. She quickly learns that the girl seeks revenge, but can't act fast enough when the young woman casts a spell with her magic staff. After that, Mal realizes that she has been transformed into an old lady, scaring her friends with her appearance. At the same moment, she admits that there is no magic that can reverse the scepter's curse, but they must still search for the vengeful girl who remains at large. Besides, the only thing more powerful than the scepter is the ember of Hades, who is probably not interested in helping the youngsters. However, Celia confesses that she knows the villain's hideout, but doesn't want to go to the Isle of the Lost again. Soon after, the teenagers head towards the island using enchanted motorcycles, which float over the sea. On Jane's birthday, she waits for her boyfriend Carlos, who is running late. However, who suddenly appears is Audrey. Suddenly, a young man named Chad asks to ally with the evil girl, who uses the scepter to cast a sleeping spell on all the guests. Quickly, the birthday girl realizes the attack and enters the enchanted lake to protect herself, becoming immune to evil magic and thus remaining awake. As Jane gets out of the water, she receives a call from Ben, who intends to go to the party, but the girl warns that a disaster has occurred at the site. Meanwhile, the teenagers arrive at the Isle of the Lost. As they cross the barrier, Mal realizes that the charm cast on her is gone, so she returns to being young again, since evil spells don't work there. Soon after, Celia greets her father and admits to him that she can't stay long as she has an important task. At the same time, the other young people turn on the TV and discover that Audrey has cast a sleep spell on some citizens, leaving them worried. After leaving the place, the teens are surprised by Hook and his gang, who steal the teenagers' motorcycles. While the young men chase the thieves, Mal and Cecilia make their way to Hades' hideout. At the entrance to the venue, the future queen is apprehensive when she reads a sign warning about the presence of a bizarre dog inside. However, her friend reassures her, telling her not to worry. Shortly after, the girls decide to use a minecart to enter the tunnels and reach a hidden location. Along the way, they hear frightening barks echoing around them. At the end of the tunnel, the girls find a room, where they come across the sleeping villain and the ember next to him. In addition, a record plays the sound of dog barks, indicating that there is no animal in there. Then the younger girl turns off the device, which makes Hades notice their presence. At the same moment, Mal is caught with the magical object in her hands. Afterward, the man takes the ember back, and the girl calls him father, revealing to Celia that the two have the same blood, and that even after abandoning Maleficent, Hades still loves his own daughter. Faced with this situation, Mal begs her father to help her, asking him to donate his magic weapon. However, he confesses that he does not care about the girl's problems, and only cares about his rise. However, Hades eventually gives in, handing the ember to the girl. He admits that the power can work, since she is his daughter. Also, the object cannot be wet, as water extinguishes the flame. In fact, only Evie knows the secret about Mal's father, the other people have no idea he exists. Meanwhile, Ben tries to figure out what Audrey's next steps are, then he is surprised by the girl who suddenly appears behind him. The girl then sets out her conditions for undoing the sleeping spell. She will only free everyone if the prince agrees to marry her and the two rule together. However, the young man believes that she is under some kind of enchantment and confesses that he prefers the old Audrey, as she would never harm any citizen of Auradon. Faced with this situation, Ben asks her to return the scepter so he will forgive her, but the young woman uses her power to overthrow the young man. Soon after, she casts another spell that petrifies the citizens outside the castle. Meanwhile, the teens prepare to leave the Isle of the Lost. After crossing the barrier, Mal is baffled by the power of the ember, which has reversed the evil magic cast upon her. At the same moment, they are surprised by two villains. Suddenly, Hook pushes Mal, who ends up dropping the ember into the sea. At that moment, Uma appears with her tentacles and steals the magical object. The girl then forms a tornado in the sea and disappears. After that, she appears on the platform and threatens to throw the stone into the water, but makes an offer not to destroy the object if Mal promises to release all the exiled villain's children. The young woman accepts the deal, yet Uma does not return the stone, keeping it for herself. Soon after, the young men discover that their bikes have been destroyed. Despite this, the two rival teams join forces to fight Audrey. When they arrive in Auradon, Gil is enchanted by the landscape, and eats the fruits of the sleeping people, while Hook takes the opportunity to steal the money, but Jay stops him. Further on, the group comes across the talking dog named Dude, who is caught stealing food from sleeping people. The youngsters surprise him and, quickly, the animal confesses that Audrey was responsible for casting the sleeping spell and turning some people into stone. After receiving this information, Uma believes the group should head to the school, while Mal thinks they should go to the castle. This sparks a quick argument between the two, but Evie intervenes and suggests that everyone head to the castle. In a hut, the evil girl observes through her scepter that her enemy is no longer with the spell and, moreover, is accompanied by Uma. This makes Audrey angry, throwing a bowl at Chad. Inside the castle, Dude guides the youngsters to Ben's location. However, halfway there, they come across several destroyed objects and claw marks on the wall. Suddenly, one of the armors in front of the young men begins to move, and soon the others do the same, preparing for the attack controlled by Audrey's magic. Even in the midst of their disagreements, the two enemies come together and encourage their friends to take on the knights. During the fight, Carlos ends up being disarmed, but Celia throws a shield at him, who uses the object to deftly slip and run away from the enemy. At the same time, Mal and Uma join forces to launch a powerful attack, hitting opponents with their magic and managing to exert some control over them. After defeating the knights, the girls are about to celebrate together, but the two enemies remember that they don't like each other. Seeing the situation, Evie confesses that her wish was to see the two teams come together, and then proposes a game in which each must mention something they appreciate about the other. She starts by saying that she likes Jay's voice, but they stop the game soon after, aware that they can't waste any time. Soon after, the group decides to go to Audrey's dormitory, where they find her diary, and Uma discovers that the evil girl always visits the fairy hut. In the woods, Gil confesses that he likes the way Jay jumps, and he replies that he likes to see how the young man gets excited about the fruits of Auradon. At Mal's house, the girls find Dizzy and the twins asleep, so Celia spreads out a blanket to comfort them. In another room of the residence, they come across Doug asleep. Quickly, Uma suggests that Evie kiss the young man, since a kiss of true love can wake someone under a spell. However, the girl confesses that the two have not yet declared themselves to each other. At the same moment, Evie asks her friends to leave the room, but they remain spying while the girl decides whether she loves the young man or not. Upon making her decision, the girl places Doug on a table and finally kisses her Prince Charming. However, he does not wake up, leaving Evie hurt. However, the young man was only pretending to be asleep, surprising his beloved. As the young men search for Ben in the woods, Dude senses a strange odor. Suddenly, a werewolf wearing the prince's clothes appears and advances on the youngsters. Quickly, everyone realizes that he has been bewitched, and that he is angry due to an injury. Faced with this, Carlos tries to approach, but the monster delivers a blow that almost hits the young man, but the beast ends up letting them approach him. The young man then holds the animal's paw and successfully removes the thorn from his hand. Suddenly, the birthday girl appears and fires a gun with water from the enchanted lake at the werewolf, making Ben return to normal. Soon after, Hook admires Jane's bravery, but Charles quickly stands up for himself by saying the girl is compromised. Meanwhile, Mal admits that it was a good idea for Uma to rummage through Audrey's room, who shudders with hatred as she spies the two archenemies getting along. In a fit of rage, the girl takes her emotions out on Chad and locks him in the pantry. At Mal's house, the girls are surprised when wood begins to appear around the windows, causing them to be locked inside. Faced with this, Mal tries to use her powers to reverse the spell, but her magic is not enough. However, Uma decides to help the young woman, and together they manage to undo the evil magic. Soon after, the young men arrive at the venue bringing the prince with them, and Carlos presents his girlfriend with a necklace with the couple's names on it. The group then decides to split up, so Gil, Doug and Jane head into town, while the rest of the team make their way to the fairy hut, where they sneak in but find no one there. Suddenly, the group notices a movement coming from inside the pantry, so Ben opens it and they come across Chad cowering on the floor. When the young man realizes that the evil girl is no longer in the place, he shoots towards freedom. On the outskirts of the castle, Jane comes across her petrified mother, which makes her sad. While walking through the forest, Uma reveals to Ben that they only agreed to help with the mission because Mal promised that she would free all the children trapped on the island. Upon hearing this, the future queen confesses that she won't be able to fulfill her promise, as the project has already been shut down. Faced with this, Uma admits that she shouldn't have trusted her. While Celia is hurt that she will never be able to see her father again, so she steals Mal's ember and throws the power into a water fountain, causing the flame to go out. Quickly, the girl asks Uma for help in rekindling the magical object, but the villain ignores her and sets off in search of Gil. Then her own friends are also hurt because Mal has hidden the truth from them. While arguing with their friend, the youngsters end up petrified by Audrey's spell. After that, the girl runs after the other group asking for help and forgiveness, but Uma is unyielding and continues her walk. At the castle, a cry for help catches Mal's attention, and she transforms into a dragon and flies to the top of the tower, where she comes across Audrey holding Celia hostage. While the evil girl fires attacks with the power of the scepter, the future queen tries to rekindle the ember using her dragon flame, but she fails miserably. Audrey then hits the dragon with her magic, causing it to slowly fall to the ground. In view of this, Uma observes everything around the castle, and decides to help by making the flame of the magical object reignite. After recovering, the future queen soars to the top of the castle and uses the magic of the ember to attack Audrey, so she can easily make the power overthrow her enemy. Afterward, Celia hugs her heroine and Mal checks on how Audrey is doing despite all she's done. In the city, the spell begins to unravel and everyone who was asleep awakens. In addition, the petrified people also return to normal. At Audrey's house, the heroes realize that the girl will not wake up, and the only person capable of reversing her state is Hades. Faced with this, Mal confesses to everyone that the man is her father, and that he will agree to help his daughter. At the same moment, the prince suggests that his guards escort the villain to the girl's room, and the other young men offer to help as well. After that, Hades arrives at the scene handcuffed and surrounded by guards. Then the men remove his handcuffs, and his daughter hands him the ember, causing a flame to ignite in the villain's hair. By performing bizarre movements using his power, the man causes Audrey to awaken. In the same instant, she realizes she has done bad things and apologizes for all the pain she has caused. Soon after, Hades is handcuffed again, and Mal runs up to him to say goodbye. After turning away, the villain thanks her, leaving the Ember Stonal with his daughter. Later, the future kings are celebrated by their people. During the speech, the girl confesses that she must not become queen as she cannot leave the Isle of the Lost since the villains helped them rescue Audrey. Finally, she admits that they must break the barrier once and for all, instead of just closing it. Upon hearing Mal's heartfelt words, the prince decides to support his beloved and the crowd celebrates the girl's decision. Then everyone gathers and the future queen uses a magic wand to break the barrier protecting Auradon, freeing all the exiled people. Thus, all the citizens gather in Auradon, and the children of villains finally meet their parents again. In addition, Hades also meets his son-in-law, and even though he is happy for his daughter, he shows that he has his eye on the young man. So what did you think of this movie? Leave it in the comments below. And if you liked the video, like and subscribe for more movie recaps. See you next time.